Good morning, everyone. Hope you're ready to be recorded. Let's begin with a short meditation. Mainly just focusing our attention a bit, and then generating a positive motivation for this session. So we can begin by reviewing the posture from yesterday. Went through the 7 points of the posture. Arranging the legs in a comfortable position, then sitting straight and erect. Probably, of the 7 points, probably the sitting straight and erect is the most important. That's kind of central to the whole meditation. The legs is just the idea is we want to have a stable base, But then, one of the most things in the posture, one of the things that we're most likely to be distracted by is either falling forwards or falling back or falling to the left or right, feeling off-balanced. So it really helps, to kind of rock to the front and back and rock side to side and feel a place where you're balanced. And I didn't mention yesterday, another thing that helps a lot to feel balanced is put a cushion like behind behind your bum, the back, because our buttocks is curved, right, like a wheel on a car, and so we tend to roll back, right, not forward. So to kind of if to keep a car from rolling, you put a chalk under the car, like a triangular piece of something you block under the wheel. Then like that, if you put a cushion under the back of your seat, it helps to hold you a bit more stably. And generally, when you're sitting on your meditation cushion, there's advice about, the meditation cushion should be soft and comfortable, but not too soft so that you're sinking down. Because if you sit, like you try to meditate on a bed, often that's a soft bed. Oftentimes, because you're the weight of your torso is coming down on your spine, so then your butt will sink lower than your knees, and then it's very uncomfortable, and you have to lean forward to counterbalance. So you want to sit on a firm surface, but not hard, so that it's uncomfortable. Because if the surface is too hard, then your ankles start to hurt very quickly. Your feet are not comfortable. So it should be comfortable, and then it's good to have the back of the cushion slightly higher than the front. Like cushions like here. That's why, you can sit up on cushions like that. Just sit on top of cushions, but really, it's better to have kind of because even if you sit on cushions, then your legs are like on a flat surface, and then you're sitting up higher with the back, which is a bit not ideal. It's ideal to have you can experiment, but the surface that you're sitting on is slightly sloped, So like if you're at home, you could even put like a piece of plywood or something, under the cushion, under your meditation cushion, and then put some like blocks. So the back of the cushion is about like 2 inches higher than the front. Or if you're sitting outside, it's better to find like a slightly sloped piece of ground. Or it also works to take a blanket. What I often do is take a blanket and fold it up, so that there's like one fold is about here, and then double that is about here, and then maybe tuck the part under your bum. You can try different things like that, but it's good to have the meditation surface slightly sloped, or so that the back of the seat is a bit higher than the front. Or if you're on a flat, just like I said, tuck something under the back of your butt. And then find where you're balanced, where your torso is balanced. You can relax the muscles all along your back and in your abdomen. And then, so that's the second, the legs, then the back and torso being straight and balanced. And then the shoulders broad and open. Then the hands in the lap, the left hand, right hand on top of the left, and the tips of the thumbs touching. Then your hands resting in your lap in front of your abdomen or in front of your navel. And then the head slightly tucked, slightly forward. Your chin slightly tucked. You have to make a straight line from your crown of your head down to the base of your spine. And then the eyes, half closed, half open, letting some light in to be alert, but kind of relaxed and partly closed. and as a way of drawing your attention within. And then the lips and teeth in a natural position, and the tip of the thumb touching the roof of your mouth just behind your front teeth. And then two other things that help with being comfortable in your meditation posture. One is that to recognize like it's never going to be perfect. If you're too perfectionist and always, trying to adjust this and adjust that to make the posture like a little better and perfect, it's kind of like that can become its own distraction. So at some point we just have to recognize like, yeah, okay, that's good enough. I'll just accept it to be like that. And just leave it, leave the body kind of in that position. Because our body really is, it's in the nature of suffering. There's always going to be some discomfort, no matter what we do. So at some point it helps a lot just to accept like, okay, that's good enough for now. I'll just leave it and then focus on, what we're actually going to meditate on. Mm. And then another thing that can help to be comfortable, this is what, this monk I met in Indonesia, he recommended when I was saying how I was so kind of sitting, didn't feel comfortable. Always felt like I was falling back or just not, or slouching or not sitting well, not in a good posture. And I found, he recommended, just imagine, like look at like a statue of Shakyamuni Buddha sitting, in just this perfect posture. So visualize oneself sitting in a very, in a perfect posture, right? So and when we do visualization, it can help a lot in the beginning to close the eyes for a bit. But to visualize, if we have a very imperfect image, self-image of the way we're sitting, physical image of the way we're sitting, then that itself can cause us to feel uncomfortable. Whereas if we, just visualize us as if we're sitting in a perfect posture, then that can help us to feel just more comfortable. It can actually help us to sit with a better posture, but also help us just to feel more comfortable with the way we're sitting. So you might try that for a minute. One, just accepting, however we have our body arranged in the posture, accepting, okay, that's good enough. And then two, imagine, sitting with a very good posture. So kind of generate a visual image of yourself sitting in your posture and imagine it's just kind of perfect, just as you would ideally see yourself sitting. Mm. And then, next thing to be comfortable sitting is to, we can scan through the body. So we did briefly yesterday, but to do in a bit more detail. Yeah, one way to do, which is described in the handout that you'll be sent soon, is to, bring our awareness to the bottom of your body, where your body meets the cushion you're sitting on. And just feel the weight of the body, settling down on the cushion, pressing down on the cushion. And kind of as you bring your awareness to the bottom, this lower part of your body, kind of feel how it brings a sense of stability, being anchored or rooted, settled very firmly on your cushion. Yeah, or your chair, the same. And then especially notice, so scan through your body, beginning at the soles of your feet, your toes, your heels, ankles, and then up through your calves, your knees, your thighs. And especially notice any tightness or discomfort or tension clasped in the muscles and joints and tendons of your legs. And as each time you inhale, imagine drawing in very kind of rejuvenating, soothing, healing white light energy with the air, and the oxygen, and it flows into that part of your body, and kind of restores and rejuvenates all the cells and tissue of your feet, ankles, legs. And then as you exhale, imagine any kind of energy blockage or discomfort or illness flows out into the ground and mixes with all the nutrients of the earth and nourishes the earth and the plants. So then visualizing that same way, then or imagining that same process, then move your attention gradually up your body towards the crown of your head. So first up, your upper thighs, your pelvis, and your lower abdomen, stomach. Especially in the stomach, we can often clench muscles of the stomach with stress or tension. So check that your stomach's relaxed, and that as you breathe, you're drawing your breath down into the bottom of the lungs so that the abdomen, expands with each breath. And then the lower back, also check that you're bringing your attention to the muscles there. Release any tension or stress. So another thing here to mention in relation to the stomach is oftentimes if we wear a belt or other like pants or clothing with a waistline that's tight, then that can be, it impedes the abdomen from rising and falling naturally with the breath. So it makes us breathe like more short and shallow. So when you're meditating, you want to wear kind of loose-fitting clothing. If you have a belt or a tie around your waist, it's good to loosen it. So so your body can move completely unimpeded. And then gradually bring your awareness, kind of comb through your body with your awareness coming up to your mid abdomen, your chest, the mid and upper back. Then gradually up through your arms, your hands, your shoulders. Especially around the base of the neck and shoulders where they meet. We often have a lot of tightness, tension there. Yeah, so continue breathing in white, kind of healing light. And as you exhale, imagine any tension or tightness or discomfort flows out as kind of dark soot or smoke and flows into the ground. And then finally bring your awareness up through your face. Become aware of the muscles in your jaw, your throat, the back of your neck, the base of your skull, then around the cheeks and the nose and eyes, the brow. And then gradually up to the crown of your head, the scalp, the crown of your head. Then focus your attention for a while at the crown of your head. And feel how it affects, focusing your attention here at the very top of your body, kind of changes the quality of your awareness compared to when you're focusing your attention down at the bottom of your body. It's kind of a bit more light and open, spacious. Mm. And then gradually bring your awareness back down. Again, back down through your body, but more briefly, more quickly. Scanning through all the parts of your body again, down to the very the soles of your feet, and kind of generating a sort of unified sense of your entire body, sitting very comfortably, preparing to meditate. Mm. And then let's generate a positive motivation. So first, just spend a minute checking the state of your mind. Bring your attention to away from your body, and then to your mind, and just check the state of your mind. Is it virtuous or non-virtuous or neutral? And then to make sure our motivation for the session is virtuous, we can, just a simple way of generating a motivation is just thinking that, whatever I do in this session, may it be beneficial for myself and beneficial for others. May it contribute to causes of well-being for myself in the short term and the long term, up to, the fulfillment of my highest aspirations, enlightenment. And then the same for others. May whatever I do contribute to their short term and longest term and highest well-being and good for myself and others. So in whatever way is authentic for you, makes sense to you, then try to generate a positive motivation along those lines. Mm. So with that positive motivation, so now the main part of the meditation session. So we'll just do a very short meditation because we already spent so much time on the posture and scanning the body. But let's watch the breath. So we'll take our breath as an object of meditation, and let's try to watch the breath just for like 5 minutes. So it's important when we, begin the main part of the meditation session to define like what object we're going to make the focus of our meditation, and then for how long we're going to sit. It's good to define both of those parameters, the object and the duration of the session. So here the object is our breath. There's different ways to watch the breath. One is to observe the sensation at the tip of the nostrils, where your air, so you're primarily breathing through your nose, and where the breath enters and leaves the nose at the tip of the nostrils, so the area all around, the two nostrils. So one way is to observe the sensation there and to focus on that point. But another way is just to observe, the breath in the whole cycle of breathing. So as we breathe through the mouth and nose, and then breath comes in through our esophagus, and then our upper lungs and our lower lungs, the abdomen rises. And then as we switch from inhalation to exhalation, then the abdomen begins to fall, and then the lungs contract, and the air flows out through our esophagus and back out through our nose and mouth. So to just observe that entire process is the second way. And for reducing, for most of us, one big issue at the beginning of meditation is to reduce kind of discursive thought. We tend to have a lot of thoughts racing around. So to reduce this kind of discursive thinking, it's said watching the entire process of breathing is more helpful. So I'd suggest you do that, but you can also, if you prefer to watch the sensation at the tip of the nostrils, you're also welcome to do that. So let's watch the breath in one of those two ways. And then also, you can try, if you like, you can try counting the breaths. which means basically so what we're trying to do is maintain an unbroken continuity of awareness of breathing. So as long as we can be, aware, more or less fully aware, we're continually, aware of the sensations of breathing. Then as we inhale once and exhale, so it's one round of breath, right? One inhalation, one exhalation. So we count one, just mentally, count one. And then if, we continue being aware of breath through another round of inhalation, exhalation, we count two. And we continue counting like that up to, if we can reach up to 10. If you reach up to 10, then count backwards down to 1. But for most of us, within one round or 2 or 3 rounds of breath, we'll find ourselves thinking about something else in such a way that we're not aware of the sensations of breathing anymore. Like we've lost the object, right? We've lost awareness of the object. So then we try to catch ourselves as soon as possible and then bring our attention back to the breath and start at 1 again, right? So for most of us, we'll find ourselves, maybe get up to 2 or 3 or 4, and then get distracted and have to start over at 1 again, which is fine. But that said, you'll see that as you're trying this, counting the breaths, watching the breath, and counting rounds of breath, that even you'll find you can be aware of the breath, but other thoughts kind of arise in the back of your mind, or other perceptions, appear, like we can hear the fan in the ceiling, or other sounds in the environment. So even though other thoughts or perceptions arise, if we can still maintain an unbroken continuity of awareness of the breath, then we can keep counting, right? And just continually let go of, the tendency that wants to follow those thoughts or other perceptions off the object. Just as long as we can stay, a part of the mind stays on the object and is aware of the breath, then keep counting. So when you start counting over from 1 is when you see you've lost the object. You're no longer aware of the breath, you're just thinking about something else or paying attention to something else. Okay, so I hope that's clear. So try to meditate like that for 5 minutes, observing the breath and counting the rounds of breath. So then relax your attention there. Yeah, okay. So then we continue this session. So I thought this session, so we've kind of reviewed in that way, reviewed what we went through yesterday, going the posture, then how to set up a meditation session, beginning with just sitting in the posture, relaxing the mind, focusing the attention a bit, and then generating positive motivation. And then the main part of the meditation session. So now we did observing the breath. And then at the end comes the dedication, which we'll do at the end of the session. So usually when we do a meditation session, usually we combine two different types of meditation. One's called placement meditation or stabilization meditation, which is what we're doing now, where you focus on one object, like the breath, and then you try to generate, a degree of, you stabilize your attention on that, or you place your attention on the object, and simply try to maintain an unbroken continuity of awareness of the object of meditation. And thereby you generate better mental focus, right? You generate better concentration. So that's one. It's called placement meditation. And there's different objects, for placement meditation. You can focus on the breath, or you can focus on your mind, the nature of the mind. You can focus on a visualized object, like you can visualize, a ball of light or an image of a Buddha or another deity, or a flower or something in the space in front of you, and then focus on that. Those are kind of typical objects for placement meditation. And then, like I said, within the breath, you can focus on the breath at the tip of the nostrils, edge of the nostrils, or the entire flow of the breath. And then a third way is you can focus on the breath at the abdomen. Focus on the abdomen rising and falling as you breathe. In any of those cases, with focusing on the breath, then those three different ways of focusing on the breath, you can... You breathe naturally, right? We're not trying to breathe especially deep or shallow or slow or quick or something. We just breathe naturally. But as you breathe naturally, you'll find like your breathing fluctuates. It's not always the same all the time. Sometimes you take a deep breath and kind of sigh. Sometimes you breathe more shallow. It also is affected by, if you've eaten recently, like if you had a big meal before, then of course you don't breathe as deeply. That's why generally it's better to meditate. Not good to meditate right after you eat. No, it's better to meditate on an empty stomach, just like doing yoga. And then also from day to day it varies. Your breathing fluctuates different at different times of the day. But when you're using your breath as an object of placement meditation, it can also help to generate a little bit of curiosity and fascination with your breath, to kind of be interested in watching and generating more subtle perception of how we breathe, and the experience of breathing can help just to keep the mind a bit more focused on it. So that's placement meditation. And then the other kind of meditation is analytical meditation, where you're more trying to generate an attitude like of loving kindness or generosity, or thinking about a question, like I mentioned yesterday, like what happens, how are we conceived, what happens when we die, and so forth. Or even like making a prayer, sort of like generating a positive motivation is a type of analytical meditation, making a prayer for something. Or different kinds of analytical meditation, or thinking about, a definition, like thinking about the nature of the mind. What is the nature of the mind, for example? So there's many different, within analytical meditation, there's many different varieties, right? But they all involve something more dynamic and involved than just watching a single object and keeping our attention placed there, right? So the way we combine those in a meditation session is, after having generated a positive motivation, usually we spend a few minutes, say 1/3, 1/4 to 1/3 of the main part of the meditation session. You spend just generating mental focus by doing placement meditation, right? And then once your mind is more focused, then you use that focused mind in an analytical meditation, whatever meditation you're going to do for that session. So yeah, and then within doing an analytical meditation, when you come to some specific insight, something new appears to your mind, new and kind of useful, then you pause on that. Then you stay with that understanding for as long as you can. So then you kind of go back to placement meditation. But then you'll find the kind of the clarity or the power of that insight, that understanding, it gradually becomes weaker, it fades. And then you go back to whatever analytical meditation you're doing and continue with that. Yeah. So then maybe I'll add here, so then when we're doing meditation, especially placement meditation, but also analytical meditation, it's helpful to be aware of two mental forces or two functions of the mind, and then two conditions for distraction, two types of distraction, right? So first of all, two forces of the mind, you can see especially clearly when we do placement meditation, they're called mindfulness and introspection, right? Although there's can be slightly different terminology, but slightly different terms can be used for the same thing because the English translations are a bit different. But this is another, in relation to Gitu's question yesterday, I was saying there's a more technical meaning of mindfulness. So that's what I'm talking about here. In this pair, mindfulness and introspection. Mindfulness also sometimes is called like remembrance. And there's another term in one handout I just saw yesterday, but I don't remember it now. Maybe I'll look in the break and see. But an introspection is sometimes called meta-awareness, is one other, or vigilance. It's also called vigilance. So, but the basic idea here is that with the main, like when we're watching the breath, like we were just doing, the main part of the mind, so about 75% or 80% of our mental energy, we're just trying to direct, with that, we're just trying to direct our attention at the breath, means be aware of the breath. And just maintain an unbroken continuity of awareness of the breath, right? Where we're continuously aware of the breath from moment to moment, second to second, without any break in our being aware of that. So with about 75% of our mental energy, we're just trying to do that. And this is kind of analogous to, like if you're holding a flashlight at night with a beam, and you want to keep it focused on the path in front of you, right, as continuously as you walk, in case there's snakes or something that you might step on. So you keep it, it's like you hold the light steady. So if the beam, the flashlight is like our mind, we keep it steadily directed at the object of meditation. In this case was the breath, sensations of breathing. So that's called, and that kind of, that activity of keeping our awareness steadily focused at the object of meditation is called mindfulness, right? There's a mental factor of mindfulness or remembrance or some other term I don't remember. Probably there's a few different terms that are used to translate this one Tibetan term, drempa. But drempa, the term for that in Tibetan is drempa. But drempa, that also has the connotation of to remember something, right? But here it's not like, in this case though, it's not that remembering something in the past. It's that we're continually kind of remembering to be aware of something in the present, right? And not forgetting the object, right? In terms of not losing track of the object. So that's the main part of our mental energy is used that way, just being mindful of the object of meditation. But then the other 75% or 20%, the other 25 or 20% of our mental energy, we use kind of like an observer to observe our own process of meditation. And this is called introspection, right? Intro, because it's looking in with our own process of meditation. Inspection, because it's kind of inspecting to see and monitor our own progress in meditation. And the job of this introspection is largely that's what the aspect that when our attention wanders off the object of meditation, to catch that, right? So like if we're counting the breaths, then, the main part of the awareness is observing the breath, then we're counting. And then when we see we're thinking about something else, to the degree that we've lost track of, we're no longer aware of our breath anymore, then it's introspection's job to catch that and notice that right away. That, oh no, my attention's wandered off. And then when we do that, then we just think, okay, I can think about whatever this is, I can think about later, pay attention to later, it's not important now, it's a distraction. In the context of meditation, it's a distraction, so I'll let that go and then bring our awareness back to the breath, and then again engage this mindfulness, observing the breath. At introspection, it's also called vigilance, because it's kind of like a guard, in an apartment building or a palace or something. There's guards patrolling the perimeter to make sure there's no intruders that come in and disturb, what's going on in the building. So like that, this vigilance is kind of like, it's like a sentry, it's kind of monitoring the meditation of the progress of our own meditation, and being aware of when distraction is even about to arise. Even before distraction arises, we can feel the mind either sinking down within, becoming dull, or being too agitated and excited and starting to think about something else. And even before we become distracted, to notice that, and we become more and more subtly aware of what's happening like in the background, to notice that and kind of keep the mind in a stable, kind of stably engaged with the meditation. So it's also called vigilance, and then it's also called meta-awareness, right? Because it's this kind of second level. We're mainly aware of the object, but then there's this kind of overarching awareness, this meta-awareness of ourself meditating. Right, so introspection, vigilance, meta-awareness are all terms for the same thing. In Tibetan, it's called Drenpa Sheshin. It's called Sheshin. So there's these two kind of ways of using our mental energy as we're meditating. The one, mindfulness, simply observing the object, or keeping the mind continuously directed at whatever our object of meditation is, and then introspection, which is observing our own process of meditation. And then the two main types of, maybe before I move on from that, so it's easy to see how these two function in terms of when we're doing placement meditation and we're watching something simple like the breath. But when we're doing analytical meditation, it's a bit, they're not so clear, right? Because analytical meditation, like I said, it's much more dynamic. We're doing something. But even when we're doing analytical meditation, we still need to define, like, what are we doing? What are we giving our attention to as we're meditating? We might be generating a visual image. We might be generating a certain state of mind. We might be, trying to gain understanding of something, like how does attachment work in my life? And ask a series of related questions. But whatever the case, we have there's some kind of way of defining what we're planning to focus our attention on, during that period of meditation. And so mindfulness there is just, the mind continually remaining within that focus, right? Staying focused. And then introspection, again, is to see, to check, are we staying focused, or is our attention wandering off to something else that's unrelated, right? So it's kind of patrolling and maintaining a good quality of attention. So then the two main kind of ways that our attention can deteriorate is in two different ways. So one is it's called laxity. There's laxity and excitement, the two different. Laxity is where our attention, the energy, it's like we need to maintain a sort of balanced kind of, to have a good quality of awareness, we have to have sort of balance with our mental energy. right? So if the energy sinks down too low and we become kind of too withdrawn in, or it usually happens when we're sleepy, we are sleepy or tired or feeling really bored or just kind of mentally feeling kind of down, unhappy, then our mind becomes kind of unclear and it's like our energy sinks too low so that we're not like, we sort of lose track of the object. Like with our breath, it's like our mind, it kind of sinks within and low, and we start losing awareness of the breath because there's not enough mental energy engaging with, watching the breath. With sort of the mind sort of, withdraws inward and becomes maybe kind of dark appearance, and the energy level feels low. And then so first there's mental laxity as opposed to like a vivid engagement with the object. The mind becomes kind of, it's like a stringed instrument. If you think about like a guitar strings, they become too loose, right? And then they don't have a nice sound anymore. It's kind of like that. Mind becomes too slack, right? And then if it gets more intense, then it leads to physical, like lethargy, right? Where we feel physically like sluggish and lethargic, and then that's going towards sleep, right? For most of us, usually that's not the issue. For most people, usually we're on the other end of the extreme, where the mind's too excited, too lifted up. There's too many thoughts going on, and the mind's, especially like watching the breath, it can be a bit boring, right? After a while. So in our mind, habitually we want something entertaining, exciting, interesting, and so there's like the energy of the mind is kind of too high, and too frantic in a way, and we find ourselves thinking of other things. Like if we're doing placement meditation, then and this is called excitement. And this is all called excitement. So laxity is when the mind is sinking down within, becoming too flat and inactive. And then excitement is the other extreme, where the mind's it's like kind of shaking and usually with attachment to something. We're attracted to thinking about something else than just the object of meditation. And that leads to the attention wandering off, right? And then paying attention to something else, thinking about something else. So that's the other. It's called excitement. And then there's antidotes to each of those, right? So, the antidote to excitement is, an initial antidote to that is just, to both, is to, in a slightly different way, just to, tighten up, bring our mind back to the object. So assuming, there's different levels of laxity and excitement. In a subtle level, we're still focused on the object, but the mind is just sinking down or raised up. So those are quite minor, right? And then we can, if the mind is sinking down, if we tighten up, just like a stringed instrument, if the strings are becoming too loose, then you just tighten them up a little bit, and then it's okay. Or if the strings are becoming too tight, so the sound is not right, then you just loosen it up a little bit, right? But you don't have to do much. You can keep, like, if you're playing a song, I guess you can't really keep playing a song and tighten or loosen the strings. I don't know. I don't really play string instruments, but it's like that. You get the idea. You might not have to do anything. You can stay focused on the object, but either tighten the mind up a little bit or just relax the mind down so it's not, so excited. Just kind of relax and stay. But then it could be that, laxity is so strong that you're kind of losing the object, and just tightening the mind up a little bit is not enough to clear away the laxity. So in that case, some antidotes are, like I said, open your eyes up. You just leave the object of meditation for a bit and open the eyes up wide and look up or look around the room and let more light in, and that kind of freshens up and brightens up the mind. Or another is to, again, if you're like watching the breath, just leave the breath for a minute and visualize like a very bright light in front of you, like at the level of your forehead. And then just focus on a bright light for a while. That can bring energy into the mind. Or you can think about something that uplifts the mind. Maybe, bring to mind a gratitude, gratitude or Think about the qualities of, if you have refuge, if you've gone for refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, or the qualities of your teacher, if you have a strong connection with the teacher. Or something, your own good fortune. But think about something that lifts the mind up to sort of brighten the mind. So there's 3 different ways, right? Just open the eyes, let more light in. That's probably the most drastic. Or just visualize something bright, or think about something that's uplifting to the mind, like gratitude or faith or, loving kindness, something like that. Or the precious human rebirth, if you're familiar with that Lamrim topic. So those are antidotes to the mind being too flat, too laxity. And then antidotes to excitement, because excitement, the mind's already, it's like it's too excited, right? There's too much energy. So you want to bring the mind down, bring the energy level of the mind kind of down a little bit. So, here the antidotes are, one is to think about impermanence and death, right? Because think about our own impermanence and our own impending death. It really kind of sobers the mind up a little bit, right? And makes, or think about the sort of suffering of samsara as another one. You can think about how, letting my mind just kind of jump around to all these objects of fascination and attachment is not going to, it's not going to fundamentally bring me happiness and well-being. So remembering like the truth of suffering, suffering of samsara, can kind of bring the mind down and reduce this kind of fascination with thinking about all different things. Or think about, how our life doesn't last long, right? Where every moment we're coming closer to death. That sort of brings the mind down, the level, the energy level of the mind down, and makes it easier to focus. I think those are the main antidotes for excitement. Well, another one is just to sort of recognize how, as long as we let our attention jump around uncontrollably from one thing to another, think about the drawbacks of that, right? That it's exhausting to think about a lot of different things. We waste a lot of time because we end up thinking about a lot of things that are not particularly helpful to us or anyone else, and that impedes our ability to use each moment of our life in a way that's more meaningful, in a way that brings some kind of satisfaction and fulfillment to us and brings benefit, to us and others. So to kind of think in that way about the deficits, the drawbacks of having this kind of scattered attention, that can also help kind of sober up the mind, bring it, and make it easier to focus on the object. Okay, so that's these 4 things then. The 2 aspects of the way we use our mind when we're meditating, with mindfulness and introspection. Mindfulness mainly focusing on the object, introspection, like 75% of our energy invested in mindfulness, and then about 25% of our mental energy being self-reflective, observing ourselves as we're meditating, and then being aware of these two types of distractions, right? Laxity, where the mind is too sinking down and in, and then excitement, where the mind is too lifted up and kind of looking out, right? And then antidotes to each of those. So, any questions about any of those things or anything else we've done this morning so far? Yeah, it's not especially something that gives rise to a lot of questions. That stuff. It's like technique, Okay, if there's no questions, why don't we take a break? It's time for a 10-minute break already. Time goes fast when you meditate, no? We spent almost the first half of this session, I think, just doing meditation, which is good, no? Okay, let's take a 10-minute break and then see what happens. Okay, let's continue now. Okay. So the rest of this session, I want to prepare you. We'll do, because there's 3 meditations that'll be in the handout packet be given. One's called Bare Awareness, and the other is called the meditation on the mind like an ocean, and the other, or ocean like, I think it's mind like an ocean, and then mind like the sky. So I want to just give the explanation you need to do those 3 meditations, and then we'll see how much time we have left and what we can actually do this session, or then we continue next session. But I have to start with just a description of the mind in Buddhism, and then and then the techniques of being aware of our own mind in different ways. And maybe a purpose for this is that, one is just because when we're meditating, we're using our mind, right? So it's not an action of the body. We put our body in a physical posture just so we can not worry too much about what's happening with our body, and we can focus on our mind. And then, as I said yesterday, within different types of consciousness, there's 2: sense consciousness and mental consciousness. So sense consciousness being, different types of awareness that are dependent upon our 5 senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. And they're just aware of phenomena immediately present in the environment around us. Whereas mental consciousness is like when we remember something or think about something in the future or make judgments or use reasoning or even feel emotion. Those are all instances of mental consciousness. And like another example is like dreaming. When we're dreaming, that's mental consciousness. At the time of sleep, our sense faculties become inactive, kind of dormant. We're not seeing something or hearing something or smelling or tasting or perceiving something with our body very much. Our body probably a little bit, right? But not much. But when we dream especially, that's purely mental consciousness functioning. So when we meditate, we're meditating with the mental consciousness. So it's, but in general, it's helpful to understand more about what the mind is. And then also because, one of the big benefits from meditation and kind of something we try to cultivate in meditation is how to be a more objective observer of ourselves, and especially of our own experiences, right? So that's one big benefit of meditation is you learn to, see your own thoughts and feelings, emotions and different perceptions arise and not immediately identify with them so strongly, but be able to observe your own thoughts and feelings and emotions more objectively. And then because that creates a lot of space between, me, and it creates a kind of wisdom. It's sort of the basis for having a bit more wisdom about what how we are as a person and how we approach life, right? By kind of taking a step back and having a broader perspective. So, the way to begin that is, on the basis of posture and meditation technique that we've already discussed and practiced a little bit, and generating mental focus, is to just learn to be like aware of things in a neutral way. Like, so when we see something, instead of immediately thinking, oh, that looks really good, or oh, that looks so bad, instead of immediately jumping into this kind of judgment, where we label things good or bad, I like, I don't like, it's this or it's that, to sort of learn to just have a neutral awareness of things, right? So that's more like just generating bare awareness. It's a bare awareness meditation. That's one of the meditations you can do for homework. So practicing that, just remaining in a kind of neutral state where it's not that we're not aware of things. We're more aware of things than we ordinarily are. Because already you can see, like if we, if we're in a yard, something, and we see a flower and we think, oh, that's such a beautiful flower, then immediately our focus just zooms in on that and we're not aware of everything else. Whereas we see the flower and realize, oh yes, that's a flower, but we can also remain aware of everything else in the environment and that, right? Both. So we practice. So one practice is this kind of bare awareness, and then another, and which we'll do. And then another practice is having the mind like an ocean, is to sort of use the analogy of the ocean for our mind. So in an ocean, there's both it's a huge body of water, and most of the water is deep and below the surface, and it's relatively still and clear. But then there's also the water on the surface, which is perturbed by the waves and the wind and the currents. I mean, the currents move both deep and on the surface, but especially the surface, there's waves and chop, because it's being pushed around by the wind. So here the wind is like, our discursive thinking and thoughts, and also information and perceptions, we're receiving from the environment, information we're receiving from the environment, and then our immediate, like, short-term reaction to that, second by second, minute by minute. And it's this kind of discursive thought jumping around. It sort of perturbs the surface of the mind. But at the same time, there's we can have deeper levels of awareness that's below the surface, and qualities of the mind that are more below the surface and remain continuous and the same from moment to moment through all of our experiences. So, and it's up to us which we identify with. If we identify, the more we identify with just the superficial surface level, thoughts and perceptions, the more kind of agitated we are, the more up and down. We're prone to be more emotionally up and down, right? Oh, this is good. This is not good. Because things in the environment we can't control. So the more reactive we are to those, the more emotionally up and down. Whereas if we identify more with like fundamental qualities of mind and of awareness, the more stable and kind of, I don't know, not predictable, but yeah, kind of the more stable and even we could remain through all different experiences, right? Which is very beneficial to us. So on one hand, we get a more objective kind of outlook on things and a more broad perspective. We look at things in a broader perspective. On another hand, we generate a sort of deeper awareness that's even and stable through all different kinds of experiences. So that's kind of ocean-like awareness, where we again and again, instead of focusing primarily on all the different things that appear to the mind, appearances that arise in the mind and sort of have a tendency to perturb on the surface level, we again and again look back to more fundamental qualities, the fundamental nature of the mind, which is the same and continuous through all those experiences, just like the fundamental quality of the ocean is continuously present below the surface. No matter what's happening on the surface, underneath, the quality of the water of the ocean is the same, right? And we identify with that kind of evenness and sameness. And then the sky-like quality of the mind is more getting in touch with like the vast, the vastness and the spaciousness of the mind. And then just like the sky is vast and open and clear, no matter what appears in the sky, whether there's sunlight or moonlight or starlight or there's clouds or birds or airplanes or smoke, all that stuff is just adventitious. It's just temporarily moving through the space of the mind. And so it never obscures the fundamental nature of the space, right? And remains the same. So like that, our mind is like our mind is like this vast open space or sky. And different perceptions and thoughts and feelings arise and pass away. So if we identify with the nature of the mind as being vast and open, it again provides kind of stability and a kind of joy, that we have this awareness. But if we identify with the clouds and the smoke and all the temporary stuff that's arising in our perception, it immediately narrows our perception. And makes us more prone to being perturbed and disturbed, and also cuts us off from our awareness of our this kind of wondrous nature of being human and being aware of things at all. Yeah. So, but what's underlying all of these is an awareness of what is the mind, right? What is the nature of our mind? So in Buddhism, there's a very clear definition, right, of the nature of the mind. It's that which is clear and knowing. There's two fundamental qualities or characteristics. The mind is clear or luminous. And those are, in Tibetan, I mean, there's one word, sewa, has both connotations of clear as in like the sky is clear, or like water is clear, and luminous in that, like a light illuminates, or the sun, or artificial light like this, it illuminates, it clears away darkness. You can say illumination clears away darkness. So it illuminates a space and thereby makes clear what's in that space. So there's these two different kind of combinations of clarity and luminousness. So the mind is that which is clear or luminous, and knowing, meaning that the mind is something, it's aware of an object, right? As opposed to not being aware. Like, like the table. This table has different objects on it, has a clock, has a vase, has my laptop. But the table is not, it's in contact with all those things, but it is not aware of that, right? Because it's an inanimate object. It doesn't have a mind. Whereas, if we have the same object, in our hand or something, it's on our hand, but because our consciousness pervades our hand, then we're aware of that. We can feel that. There's some experience that goes along with it. So awareness means that when we have contact with objects, we have experience of those objects. It's kind of a space of experience. And of all the things that exist in the world, it's only mind that is aware of itself, right? Any other thing that exists, it's not aware of itself. Like even the computer, for example, it's a very sophisticated object. It can do a lot of things. It can create images. It can create sounds. It can calculate information and do all kinds of run all kinds of programs. But the computer is not aware. At least this computer, I don't know, maybe a massive AI computer, I'm not sure. But like this, laptop like this, it's not aware of what it's doing, right? It can do all kinds of stuff, but it has no awareness of that. It's not self-aware. Whereas our consciousness, our mind, we can, we see things, hear things, think about things, and we're also aware of doing all those things. One indication of that is that, if we think, well, what was I doing like 3 hours ago? Like now, what time is it now? It's almost 12. So what was I doing at 9 o'clock this morning? We can remember or what was I having for breakfast? We can remember the things we had for breakfast, and we can also remember the experience of having breakfast this morning, right? So we had a mental experience of seeing, tasting, whatever, feeling things. And we can remember not only the objects that we experience, but the experience of engaging with those objects, right? So in any moment, our mind is not only aware of things other than itself, it's also aware of itself, and it's the only thing in the world like that, right? There's no other object in the world that has that ability, both to be aware of things other than itself and to be aware of itself. So these three kinds of meditation, we're all primarily working with trying to be more perceptive of this fundamental nature of the mind, to be clear and knowing. And so now to step back, because I didn't explain much about what does it mean that the mind is clear. Well, this relates to those two examples of the ocean, especially of the sky. Like, in one way, the sky is clear in that, any object can move through the space of the sky, but none of those objects become of the nature of the sky, right? There can be smoke arising or smog arising in the sky, but it's always something can be separated out from the sky. There can be light moving from the sky, but it's not of the nature of the sky or space. It's just temporarily in the face. Another example of the clarity of the mind is like a mirror. Like any object that can be seen, it can be, when there's light and it's in front of the mirror, its reflection can be cast in the mirror. Or reflection can be generated in the mirror. But none of those reflections is of the nature of the mirror. All kinds of reflections can appear, but they're never fixed as part of the mirror. They're just temporarily there. So like that, whatever thoughts, we see thing, and then that can trigger us to think about something else. So that thought arises, but that thought is not of the nature of the mind. It's just temporarily present in our mind, and eventually it'll pass away, right? But the fact that the mind is kind of a space in which different thoughts can arise, different perceptions arise, that doesn't change, right? And then the fact that the mind is aware of those things, it's like illuminates those things, or those things are illuminated by, or known by the mind, that doesn't change, right? So, and then a third analogy for this clear nature of the mind is water, right? Like, again, just like space or a mirror, different things that are other than water can be mixed with it, right? Milk or, mud or oil or whatever, a dye. Stuff can be mixed in water and temporarily kind of obscure the translucent nature of water, right? Water is translucent, right? Light can pass through it, we can see through it, it's clear. But whatever those other things that are mixed with water are, they're never of the nature of water. They can always be passed through a filter and separated out, and you can just have pure H2O. And that potential for the water to be completely pure is never destroyed by whatever is mixed in the water, right? It's always there. So like that also, our mind, no matter what disturbing experiences arise, the potential and the fundamental nature of the mind is always to be clear and free or pure of any of those things. And that, again, is similar to the waves on the ocean. No matter how disturbed the surface of the ocean is, that's not the nature of the ocean, right? It's due to adventitious causes and conditions, like wind and the weight of boats or currents, that the surface is disturbed. But there's always the potential that the surface can be completely calm and stable, like it is down beneath the surface. Okay, so these are, so in short, the definition of mind is that which is clear and knowing. And so, one helpful way to meditate, to generate, in one hand, a more objective outlook on things, a more objective way of looking at our experience, is to just practice bare awareness, just being aware of things without reacting, without engaging in, creating engaging in judgment or labeling or creating a story or thinking about them, just being aware. And then beyond that, looking more at the nature of the mind, so looking more deliberately at the nature of the mind, and using the analogy of the ocean, and just looking at how is it, how it's the case that the nature of the mind, being that which is clear and knowing, is consistent and unchanging from moment to moment, no matter what kind of perceptions are arising, what's appearing to the mind. That, it's like, so kind of keep looking back at the observer itself. And that's the trick in all these meditations, is we're so habituated to looking out at things other than ourself, other than our mind, what's in the environment around us, and the sounds, and things we see, and then things we've heard about from others, things that have happened in the past, things that might happen in the future. So we're not used to looking at the mind itself, which is making all those experiences possible. And so when we do any of these meditations, the trick is to keep looking back at the observer itself, and just try to, keep focusing on, well, what is it that's thinking? What is it that's aware? What is it that's meditating within me? And then we can use the analogy of, of the sky, and reflecting on kind of the spacious, and there's so much space in the mind, and identifying with that vast and kind of luminous, spacious nature of the mind, and not identifying so much with the adventitious kind of temporary thoughts and emotions that are arising in that space and passing away, and arising and passing away. Okay. So any questions about any of that, the nature of the mind or the basic technique? We'll do, so the next thing is, if we want to clear up any questions, is to practice those meditations a bit, and then maybe there'll be more questions after that, who knows? No? Okay. Then you ready to do some meditation? Again? Yeah? Okay. Then get comfortable in your meditation posture. Yeah, so gradually get comfortable in your posture. Just briefly scan through your body. And then, regenerate a positive motivation, like you did at the beginning of the session. Thinking in both a long-term and a vast way. May this, what I do in this meditation session, may it be beneficial to myself and beneficial to others. So then we'll spend a few minutes first meditating on the breath. So observe your breath, either the sensation at the tip of the nostrils or the entire process of breathing. And remember these two aspects of mindfulness and introspection, where 75% of the mental energy we're just directing at the object of meditation, the breath, and then 25% we're using to observe our own process of meditation, and especially notice any disturbances before they arise or as they arise, any distraction, to catch that and let go of paying attention to that. And then, be aware of laxity and excitement and the potential for those to disturb the quality of your meditation, and then the antidotes to those. So if you're for a few minutes, just observe the breath. You can use counting or not, as you like. So while we watch the breath now, mindfulness is about 75% of our attention is just trying to be continuously aware of sensations of breathing. And then introspection or vigilance is like 25% of our attention, being aware of our own process of meditation, which is primarily being aware of our own mind, meditating on the breath. So now what we want to do is gradually change the kind of the distribution of mental energy. So we want to try to be aware of the breath, but sort of let that awareness fade into the background more and kind of leave it there as an anchor. And shift more energy into the aspect of introspection, being aware of your own mind, which is aware of the breath. Right? So try to maintain a sort of softer, reduced awareness of the breath continually, but shift more attention into that aspect of your mind which is aware of the mind itself, right? That's meditating. So sort of increase the introspection to like 75% of your mental energy and reduce the mindfulness of the breath to just like 25%. So just try that, for a couple of minutes, being more aware of the mind that is meditating on the breath or observing the breath. Mm. And then imagine also kind of further letting go of being aware of just the breath and expanding your awareness. So you're aware of your mind and anything that appears to the mind. So just, while observing your own mind, also just kind of expand your awareness so that you're just aware of anything that appears, whatever sounds, physical sensations, thoughts, feelings. But be careful not to be carried away Not to let your attention be carried away by any of those objects that arise, any perceptions that arise, but remain kind of within this awareness of the mind that is aware of those objects. So just like we're practicing being aware of the mind that's aware of the breath, then expand that to be aware of whatever arises. But primarily not being directed outwards towards other objects, being, directing the attention inwards towards the mind that is observing, that is aware of objects. Mm. And then finally, just for a couple more minutes, so we just remain in this practice called bare awareness, where, again, we try to generate a very neutral and objective awareness of whatever arises without getting caught up in, discursive thought and a whole, train of thought or conversation about what's appearing. Just accepting, whatever appears. And with, curiosity and full awareness, just experiencing whatever appears, and also being, aware of that experience itself, the mind which experiences. So practice this kind of open, accepting, bare awareness as it emerges, from moment to moment in the present. So then you can relax your attention there. So that's, I want to show you just, you guys don't have, you do have, great. These are the handouts we'll give you later on by email. Come on. Oh, there's the posture, which we've already been through. There's one that describes that. And then bare attention exercise. That's what we were just doing. So there's that description. And then on the basis of that, then we'll see if we do a next session or not. This is, actually yours look a bit different. Yours look like, I'll show you. Oh yeah, there's one. Meditation, mind like the sky. You can see that, yeah. That would be on the basis of the bare awareness exercise. We do that. Oops, where am I going? Kind of. What happened? And then where's another one? Let's see. Oh yeah, mind like an ocean. Oh, it's not coming up though. Is it? Oh, great. Yeah, mind like the ocean. Handout number 6. So yeah, there's those two. Yeah, any questions? We just have a few minutes left. About any of this? You all feel comfortable doing that? Do you have a bare awareness? You felt like you could watch your mind? No? What was going on, Rachel? Rochelle? Jessica? Oh, Rochelle is... Isn't Rochelle here somewhere? That's Rochelle. Okay. There, Jessica. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but...
I know.
Yeah. But you are now.
I am. Yeah, I had lots of different thoughts about, all sorts of random things pop up.
Okay.
So.
Well, then the idea is just to, instead of following the thoughts, to keep turning the attention back. Well, who is it that's thinking? I mean, of course, it's a bit complicated because in one hand, if we ask the question, who is it that's thinking? One natural answer is, well, me, the person, right? And that's true. But as a person, why are we thinking? It's because we have a mind that's thinking, right? So the more precise answer is, well, it's my mind that's thinking. But then, where is that mind? How does that mind exist? What's the nature of that mind? It's kind of keep turning back. But were there, I don't know, other questions like, well, why the hell am I asking this question anyway? It's a stupid question or something, or I don't know.
Some of that, but more one of the reasons that I came to this class is that I've been noticing how my breath is really shallow. So just focusing on the breath has been helpful in this past, last night and today, this morning. And so as these other thoughts sort of started popping up from, where's the closest Chinese grocery store so I can go buy this particular, whatever seasoning.
What do you want to buy?
I know, black beans, that thick vinegar, and anyhow.
Black beans, a black bean curd kind of.
No, know those fermented funky beans?
Yeah.
Those,
I know, yeah. They are good.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah. That's right.
And I even thought, I bet you could tell
Yeah.
me. So.
We can tell you after the session, not during. Yeah, but that's natural. Those kind of thoughts arising, and the trick is just to keep coming back to, well, where did that thought arise from? What's the space in which that thought arises? My own mind. What is that mind? Yeah. But if you feel again, I didn't mention this, but this is maybe a good point to mention, is, in guided meditation, I'm only one person, I can only guide meditation, one meditation for one group, but each of us has different experience, personal experience. So, if, for example, you feel no, it's really more beneficial for me just to stay with my breath, just to observe my breath and try to breathe more naturally, more deeply. You can do that. There's never any obligation to follow the instruction I'm giving. No, you have to be aware of what's important for you to focus on in that at any moment, and you can focus on that too. That's also fun. Yeah, Michelle.
I've noticed in a class setting, not so much at home, before I settle in, I just get this panic and I just want to scream.
Mhm.
And
Okay. You can scream, I guess.
well,
No, that would be
might
strange.
Too disturbing. So
But yeah, what do you think that's connected to? I don't know.
it's just a lot of energy and it wants to come out and it doesn't know
Yeah.
what to do.
Yeah, maybe it's good for you to take that as an object sometime. When you see that, that kind of, I don't know, that kind of instinct or arise, that arise, that kind of panic arise, then you can take that as an object, of meditation for a session and try to reflect on that. Like, what is that arising from now? And then, always those kind of things when we reflect on, which we do a lot, it's kind of an analytical meditation, is maybe go back in your life. Think, in your life, was that always there? That kind of, is it only arises like when I'm in a classroom setting and I'm meditating, or does that same thing arise sometimes, like, I don't know, when I'm setting out on a long trip, or when I'm meeting someone for the first time? Or are there other circumstances when a similar thing arises? So what are the different triggers of that? What's maybe common about those? Is there a particular time in your life when you started having that and before that you didn't? Or, try to learn more about it, understand it more. And then how does it pass away? Is it, and then if it goes away easily, then okay, it's not such a big deal. But if it's something persistent and is disturbing, then maybe it's, requires a bit more attention. Yeah. Yeah, I've never heard someone, report that kind of experience with this, like meditating in class. Although I know for myself, like sometimes when I'm starting on a meditation retreat, where I've dedicated, like 7 days or a couple weeks to doing a meditation retreat, and then I oftentimes, like the first day or 24 hours, like when I'm kind of going into retreat, that I don't know if it's similar, but the kind of panic arises, like, oh no, what am I going to do with myself just alone for 1 week? Like, I'm not sure this is going to go well, but then you just start with the practice, and it kind of goes away, and kind of confidence comes to be like, oh yeah, well I can. It's not a disaster. Like I can sit here and do one session after another, and then it's like, okay, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Just check for yourself what's going on. Yeah, someone online has a question. Teresa, yes. Teresa?
Do you want me to? I can hold my question. Do we need to end?
No, we don't. We have
Okay.
a little bit of time.
I love this idea of like 25% of the mind on the breath, 75% of the mind. Anyway, I really love the idea, and I keep trying it and trying it. I think I'm overthinking it. I don't know what's happening, but maybe you could explain it in a different way, or maybe I just need to keep working with it. I don't really know.
I don't know. If you love it, it sounds like okay. I don't know. What's the?
Well, I really love it, but I'm
there's a
not
problem?
getting it. Yeah, what's the problem? Let's see, what's the problem?
You're not
It's
getting?
like, I just don't know how to split. I don't know how to split my attention like that, I guess.
Well, that kind of giving percentages is a bit of an overstatement, right? It's not really that literally like that, right? But it's more an indication of just generally like what are we paying more attention to in the moment? Like when we're watching our breath, then really it is like most of our attention, say, roughly 75, 80% is just directed at the breath. And then some of our attention, we're also trying to be aware of our own mind watching the breath, right? Like we're primarily, and it's, yeah, you could even think of maybe one analogy is like on your screen, no? If you imagine the breath is like one image and your introspection is another image, like it's a little spy or something, then the breath image is much bigger and the introspection image is small, right? But then as we put more energy into observing our own mind, then the introspection image becomes like bigger, maybe first just 50%, and the breath image becomes smaller.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's like 50%
Yeah,
of the
yeah, I
screen
like
space.
that.
And then as
Yeah.
we let the breath focus more into the background, the breath image like becomes smaller and the introspection image becomes like bigger. But that's an
better.
analogy for like, yeah, where are you investing the energy of your attention?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So as we become more aware of our own mind, then the perception of the breath, it's still there, but it fades into the background. But the trick with the mind is, I mean, the breath is kind of easy to focus on because it's sort of, it has like tactile, it's like a tactile object almost.
Exactly. I
It's
keep
easy
coming back
to,
to it. I think that's
it
why.
kind of has there's a physical sensation and movement that goes with it. The mind is more difficult to focus on because it's just like a slippery fish, no? It's just, you feel like you got it and then you don't, right? Because
Right.
it doesn't have any color, it doesn't have any shape, it doesn't have any tactile quality. It's just awareness. It's a much more subtle object. But the benefit, so it's more difficult to be aware of, but the benefit of it is of being aware, practicing awareness of the mind is because the object is more subtle, then yes, it's difficult to be more aware of, but as you become more aware of it, the quality of that awareness is more subtle, is more refined, right?
Right.
So whereas you generate awareness of the breath, because the object is quite gross in a way, not as in disgusting, but as coarse.
Right.
So the awareness is always kind of, it's not very refined, no? Whereas because the mind is a much more refined object, then to be aware of the mind, then that quality of awareness naturally is much more fine and subtle.
I got it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we should stop now for the lunch break. So yeah, we can briefly dedicate by whatever positive energy we generated here. May we and others be able to reap the benefits of meditation and generate more control over their own mind and more wholesome kind of qualities of awareness. And then whatever other prayers or aspirations you'd like to add, you can add in your own mind. Okay, thank you all. Enjoy your lunch and see you at 2:00.